Hi everyone, I'm Snogger, and welcome to my first YouTube video where we will be seeing if I can beat Pokemon Emerald with just a Wailord. Why Wailord? Because I like him. Anyway, let's have a look at Wailord's base stats. What jumps out at you is the incredible HP, but it's balanced out with the abysmal defense and special defense. Wailord also has mediocre speed, but good attack and special attack. He's like a mini Chansey, but with an actual attack stat. Now being pure water type, Wailord has only two weaknesses, those being grass and electric, so I'm anticipating the biggest challenges to come from the electric type gym leader Watson and Wallace, as he loves to stall with moves like Leech Seed and Toxic, and we don't have any moves in particular that can do big damage to his Pokemon. Speaking of moves, Wailord's move pool is actually pretty decent. We start out with Rollout, and even get Astonish early to deal with those Ghost and Psychic types. We also get the very powerful move Water Spout at level 44. In terms of TMs, there are a few really good cover moves that we can learn, such as Ice Beam for grass types, and Earthquake for electric types. With that being said, let's get on to some of the restrictions I'll be placing on myself as I go through with this challenge. Rule number 1, I'll only be allowed to use Wailord in battle. Rule 2, other Pokemon can be caught for HM Porpoises, but cannot be used in battle. See what I did there? No? Oh, okay, I'll stop. Anyway, on to Rule 3. No items can be used in battle, but held items can be used. Anything else is fair game. So to start, we enter the Stranger's house. We then head off to Route 101 to save Professor Birch from a Zigzagoon, with the help of our newly acquired perfectly legitimate starter, Wailord. I nicknamed him Whale High. He also has Bold for his nature, plus defense minus attack, which is pretty bad. He also has Oblivious for his ability, which is only useful to beat up that thing from Johto. Anyway, he has good stats all around, and will probably be sweeping through most if not all teams early on. We then head north, and with that, we have our first rival battle against May. One in where we completely destroy her. No surprises there. We also get 69 experience.
Nice.
We then head back to Littleroot Town and receive a Pokédex and some Pokéballs. Next we headed to Petalburg City to teach Wally how to catch a Pokemon. Then we had a splash off against the Magikarp, but that was short lived. Because next we entered Petalburg Woods and made short work of an Aqua Grunt. Then it was time for Roxanne. Not much to recap here, as we take out both her Geodudes in one shot with a water gun. And whilst Nosepass was able to take a couple more hits, we were able to earn the Stone Badge. Well, that was pretty easy. But it's only going to get tougher from here, and on our way to save Mr. Briney's Wingull, Pico, Wailord learnt Whirlpool, which we replaced with Splash sadly. Then we have another rival battle against May, but we crush her. We then give Steven a letter in the cave, and then it was time to take on Broly. Using Water Gun on his Machop takes 3/4 of his health. He then uses Bulk Up, but that was in vain as we take out Machop with another Water Gun. Next is Metatot, and it uses Light Screen, a move which raises special defense, lowering the effectiveness of our Water Gun. Our next attack nearly takes Metatot out, but Broly heals up. Though, through sheer luck, on the next turn we get a critical hit and take down Metatot. Broly's last Pokemon is Makuhita, and since Light Screen is still up, I decide to use Whirlpool to chip away at his health. This was a mistake, as he still had a Citrus Berry, and it doesn't help by the fact that his next Vital Throw was a crit and takes us down to 20 HP. And so Broly wins the battle with one last Vital Throw. Yeah, that was embarrassing. Anyway, we come back for a second try, and this time Machop goes down easily to 2 Water Guns just like before, as Wailord hits level 23 and learns Astonish, a 30 base power physical ghost type move that might come in handy later. Next is the annoying little Metatot. However, this time around, he didn't use a Light Screen, but bulked up instead, so we were able to take it down in just 2 Water Guns. Then, it was time to take on Makuhita again, and with no hesitation this time around because there's no Light Screen, we use Water Gun, which is countered by a Vital Throw. He has a Citrus Berry, which heals him to just about full health, but we can use Water Gun again, and he gets another crit on his Vital Throw. That wasn't enough though, as we take out Makuhita on the next turn, earning us the Knuckle Badge. Next, we head to the Slate Port Museum, where we take care of 2 Team Aqua Grunts fairly easily, and then Archie pops in to say hello. on our way to fight our next rival battle against May on Route 110, we encounter a trainer with Skitty. If you know, you know. On to our battle with May, and we one-shot her Wingull with Rollout. She then sends out Grovyle, whose Absorb barely scratches us. I continued to use Rollout, whilst Grovyle kept on using Absorb, which did a lot of damage before we could take it out. But May's Slugma was an easy one-shot with Rollout. Next, we're off to Moleville City, and along the way, Wailord hits level 28 and learns Water Pulse, an excellent move with which we replace Water Gun with. Continuing north to take on the dreaded Electric Gym, we first take down Wally. Now, being the really bad Pokemon trainer that I am, I started off the battle against Watson with Rollout, hoping that the increased damage can take out Manectric and Magneton later on. However, that plan backfired, and we got paralysed by Voltorb Spark. I then decided to try and use Water Pulse, which to my surprise one-shot both Voltorb and Electrike. Then it was Magneton, but we didn't really stand a chance here as we were low on health and we were paralysed. That was pretty bad, but on the second try, I mixed up my strategy and used Water Pulse first up and defeat both Voltorb and Electrike before they could do any damage to Wailord. Then it was Magneton. I used Water Pulse, which did about 3/4 damage, but Wailord got paralysed in the process. We then took it out on the next turn with another Water Pulse, and Wailord hit level 31. Manectric was his last Pokemon, and holy RNG. On the first turn, Manectric used Howl, and we were paralysed. Then we were hit with a crit Shockwave, which nearly took us out, and Wailord was paralysed again. We were then finished off with another Shockwave. That was annoying. We're back at Magneton again, and this time we take him out in 2 Water Pulses, but in the process he not only paralysed us, but also confused us. This will make things a lot harder against Manectric. And right on cue, Wailord was paralysed on the very first turn that Manectric was out. We were then hit with a Shockwave, which did for about 1/3 damage, but we break through the Parafuse and land a Water Pulse, which did a little over half damage. But Manectric ate a Citrus Berry and was basically healthy again. It then used Howl, but we snapped out of confusion and was able to land a Water Pulse, taking Manectric to yellow health. Watson then used a Super Potion, but we were lucky enough to hit and confuse Manectric. He then hit himself into red health, but we were also paralysed on the same turn. Watson used another Super Potion, but Wailord thankfully was able to land a Water Pulse. Manectric then snapped out of confusion and hit a Shockwave, leaving Wailord with 26 HP. But he came through in the clutch, and finished off Manectric, which earned us the Dynamo badge. I'm not going to lie, we got pretty lucky there, but sometimes you need a bit of luck with these types of challenges. After the battle, we head to the Rock Smash guy to get the HM for Rock Smash. Then it was time for a battle against Maxie, and despite being handicapped, we take out his Mightyena in 2 Water Pulses. We then take out his Zubat in 2 rollouts, and with the increased damage of consecutive rollouts, Camerupt was never a chance. Then it was the next gym leader, Flannery, and this went exactly how you would expect it to go. We sweep through pretty much her entire team, one-shotting all of her Pokemon before they could even land a hit, which earned us a Heat Badge. Fair to say it won't be getting any easier than that. Once back at Petalburg City, we battle Norman. I once again tried the rollout technique where I build up rollout damage to take out Slacking later. It didn't work, so I just went back to using Water Pulse. We got pretty lucky with Confusion, as we were able to beat Spinder, Vigoroth, and Linoon quite easily. Then it was Slacking. We confused him with Water Pulse, and he healed. But even that wasn't enough to stop us from earning the Balance Badge, as we finish him off with a couple of Water Pulses. With that battle finished, we next headed to the abandoned ship east of Dewford City, where we pick up the TM for Ice Beam and taught it to Wailord for Water Pulse, as we already have Surf. This is to deal with all those pesky grass types that we may encounter later in the run. Arriving at the Weather Institute, we take on Shelly. Her Carvanha went down to a rollout thanks to a critical hit, and Mightyena's Intimidate prevented the one-hit KO. But on using Swagger, she sealed her fate, and we took out Mightyena with the next rollout. After the battle, we were given a Castorp who was holding a Mystic Water, an item which boosts the power of water-type moves, to which we then gave it to Wailord. Next, we have another battle against May. It was pretty uneventful, aside from the Ice Beam TM we picked up earlier being extremely useful against Grovyle, and Wailord hitting level 44 and wanted to learn Water Spout. But now I think that the move is just too situational, as Wailord's speed just isn't good enough to stay at a high HP to make the most out of this move. So ultimately I decided against teaching it and keeping my current moveset. After finishing the battle, we then head to Fortree City to take on Winona, the flying type gym. Her Swap Blue was an easy one-shot to Ice Beam, and so was her Tropius, who was quad weak to Ice. In the process, Wailord grew to 46. Next was Pelipper, who confuses Wailord with Supersonic after he misses a rollout. Pelipper then uses Protect, as Wailord hits himself in confusion. However, we got lucky, and Wailord broke through the confusion twice to land some rollouts and take out Pelipper. Next was Winona's Skarmory. We were hit with 3 consecutive sand attacks, as we missed a rollout and 3 Ice Beams in that span. Then, Ice Beam finally hit on the 5th turn, and being the incredibly terrible trainer that I am, I used our final Ice Beam to take out Skarmory, forgetting that Winona's last Pokemon is Altaria, who's quad weak to Ice. With life being made more difficult without any Ice Beam power points left, our accuracy being severely dropped due to Skarmory's 3 sand attacks, and Winona building Dragon Dances, this is the end of the attempt. Or so you thought, because Wailord actually clutched out again, fighting through the accuracy drops and surviving some buffed earthquakes to land a huge rollout to take out Altaria, earning us the Feather Badge. Next is everyone's favourite rival, May, but we take her out pretty quickly. Tropius, Grovyle and Slugma all going down to one-shots, whilst a couple of rollouts was eventually able to take out Pelipper. It was then time for another battle with Maxie, but it was a pretty easy battle. Mightyena went down to a single Surf, whilst Crobat survived a nice Beam, but a Surf finished the job, despite Maxie using a Super Potion. And Camerupt was also an easy one-shot with Surf. Next are Tate and Liza, but first we caught a Magikarp in a Master Ball and named him God, because it's only fitting. We then take Wailord and God to the gym, and right off the bat, we freeze Claydol with an Ice Beam, after barely taking it out. But then against all odds, God is taken down. Anyway, Claydol heals up, and Surf does less than what I expected. Zartoon uses Calm Mind as we take out Claydol and leave Zartu in yellow health. Then out comes Solrock, but Zartoon uses Sunny Day, lowering Surf's effectiveness. I then take out Zartu with an Ice Beam, and Lunatone is their last Pokemon. Solrock uses Psychic, and on the next turn I use Surf again, but it doesn't even do half to the Pokemon. Solrock then lands a Solar Beam for massive damage, and this attempt was all but over. Also, it was actually over, as even though we KO'd Solrock, Lunatone kept on using Calm Mind and took us out with a buffed Psychic. On our second attempt, I change up my strategy and take out Zartu in a single Ice Beam first. God then hit level 11, but was shortly taken out by an Earthquake, which did very minimal damage to Wailord. Out came Solrock, who we took down to red health with a Surf, and dealt massive damage to Claydol. However, Solrock used Sunny Day to weaken our Surf once again, but it was still strong enough to take down both Solrock and Claydol on the next turn as Wailord grew to level 53. Then it was Lunatone. We land a critical Astonish, but Lunatone puts us to sleep. On the next couple of turns, Lunatone sets up a Light Screen and hits a Psychic, leaving us with about a third of our health left before we woke up and used an Astonish to get Lunatone into red health. We were also put into red health after being hit by Psychic. Lunatone was then healed as Surf did massive damage but brought him to within healing range. This happened 3 times, but Tate and Liza were just delaying the inevitable, as we eventually take out Lunatone with Surf, earning us the Mind Badge. Archie's next, but not much to recap here, as Mightyena and Crobat go down to a Surf and Ice Beam, while Sharpedo takes 2 Surfs before he goes down. Next up was Juan. We breezed through his Love Disc and Wish Cache, but Celio paralyzes us with Body Slam before we could take it out. We hit Crawdaunt with an Earthquake, but then went on to be paralysed for 3 straight turns before we could land the finishing hit. Then it was Kingdra, who spammed Double Team, and together with our paralysis, it was almost impossible to hit. And when we did connect, we did a little over half, but he would rest up and it was wraps for this match. Second try, and it went eerily similar to the first, as we made it through his team but got paralysed by Celio. However, by the time Kingdra was out, we were already in yellow health. Kingdra once again begins to stall us with Double Team and potions, and there was nothing we could do. But I was convinced that we could beat him if we didn't get paralysed by Celio. which, on our third attempt, we didn't, and had virtually max health by the time that Kingdra was up. He was being as annoying as ever though, spamming double teams and rest, but this time we were able to hit him in a fair bit, and I began to feel really optimistic about this run, until we got frozen by Ice Beam, and stayed frozen for 7 straight turns. Wailord was then taken out by a couple of Ice Beams once again. Anyway, on the 4th attempt, we once again stormed through Juan's team, but this time Whooshkash uses Rain Dance, which we were able to use to take down Crawdont in just one hit. We were pretty much max health when Kingdra came out, but this time we're the ones who do the freezing. Nothing like sweet revenge. And with this, we were easily able to take out Kingdra and earn ourselves the Rain Badge. We then take on Wally in Victory Road. The only thing that was worth mentioning here was that I decided not to teach Wailord Hydro Pump, as I felt as though the accuracy power trade-off wasn't worth it, and the limited power points would be a problem when we tackle the Pokemon League. Looking at our stats, the HP is obviously terrific. Attack and special attack are decent, but defense is a problem. So it's probably a case of we either one-shot, or it might get pretty ugly. We've also got a pretty good move pool to cover our weaknesses, but we'll probably need to teach new moves as we go through with the Pokemon League. We're also pretty unleveled at 62, but I'll give it a crack anyways. The first member of the Elite Four is Dark-type Specialist Sydney, and he's a joke. We sweep through Mightyena with Surf, whilst Ice Beam took care of Cacturne and Shift Tree. Crawdont took a Surf and Earthquake before he went down, and his last Pokemon Absol was a one-shot with Surf. Next up was Phoebe, and her first Pokemon Dusclops tried to drain our power points with Protect. Astonish did way less than I thought it would, but it was enough to allow Surf to finish the job. I tried using Astonish again on Bayonet, but it just doesn't do enough, as we nearly KO Bayonet with an Earthquake, allowing Phoebe to heal. I continued to use Earthquake, and 2 was enough. Phoebe's next Bayonet went down in the same way, but Grudge took out the last of our power points. Sableye was a one-shot with Surf, whilst 2 was enough to take down her final Dusclops. Then it was time to take on Glacier. This is a tough battle, as Earthquake doesn't do enough to two-shot Celio. However, we are able to take it down by using Astonish first to prevent healing, but Celio is able to set up a hail. Glalie was a one-shot to a critical Surf, and out comes another Celio. I knew Surf and Earthquake this time, but it ends in Glacier healing, so I went back to the 2 Earthquakes and Astonish to finish the Celio off. Surf landed Glacier's Glalie into Healing Zone, however, we were able to comfortably take it out in 2 more Surfs. But we simply didn't have enough health to finish off the battle due to hail, which took around 3/4 of our health just by itself, and this wasn't helped by Earthquake barely doing anything to Walrein. We're going to have to try again. But first, I decided to teach Wailord Rock Tomb, and replace Astonish with it because it just wasn't going to be useful from here on out. This really didn't make much of a difference, as Rock Tomb gives me a false sense of hope, as 2 hits again wasn't enough to KO Celio. We basically limped our way through this whole fight, as we were taken out before we even battled her second Glalie. This wasn't going to work, so I decided to go and train. But first I make sure to head north of Moss Deep City to pick up a Shell Bell, an item which heals us every time we attack an opponent as a counter to Hail, and even Wallace later down the line, as we all know his favourite strategy. The training wasn't too tedious, as we could pretty much one-shot any wild Pokemon that was in the Victory Road, and the trip to the Pokemon Center was pretty short. We then come back at level 70 with the Shell Bell, and with extraordinary luck, we crit both her Celio and Glalie for one-shots. Glacier's next Celio lasted 2 Earthquakes, but set up Hail in the process. Her last Glalie was a little bit more involved. Glacier used 2 full restores, but it simply served to extend the battle, as we eventually knock it out with most of our HP still intact thanks to the Shell Bell. Her Walrein is last, but it didn't really threaten us at any stage, as we finished the battle off with a couple of Surfs and an Earthquake. After that tough battle, we are now up against the last Elite Four member Drake, and this battle is pretty much one-way traffic. We take Shelgon and Altaria out with Ice Beam, and Kingdra goes down to a couple of different moves in my attempt to save some power points. We then finish off Flygon and Salamence with Ice Beam as well, leaving only the champion Wallace remaining. Wailord is first, and we nearly take him out with 2 Earthquakes. He then uses Rain Dance, which allows us to two-shot his Wailord with Surf after he's fully restored, proving that we do indeed have the better Wailord. Next is the ever-annoying Ludicolo, and pretty much whenever he uses Leech Seed, it means the end of the attempt. But luckily, we froze him with our Ice Beam and took him out fairly easily. Tentacle went down to an Earthquake, and next up was Milotic. This battle was as annoying as ever, and we didn't have a move that could two-shot Milotic, and every time that we would get close to knocking it out, it would recover. We were then poisoned, and it's now a battle against the clock before the poison takes us out. We went back and forth with Milotic, but by the time we take it out, it was all but over, and the poison finishes us. I then decide to teach Wailord's secret power at Facade to boost my attack power if I get poisoned for Ice Beam and Rock Tomb, then went on to face Wallace again. Secret power here has a 30% chance of inflicting paralysis, and I was sorta hoping that would carry me through Wallace's team before he could Leech Seed or poison Wailord. So Wailord goes down pretty easily after being paralysed, but our RNG luck against Ludicolo is horrendous, as secret power would barely ever paralyse him, and even when he did, he would always be able to attack or set up, and we lost to him again and again and again. I gave it about 100 odd tries, and it just was never going to work. So I went back to grinding and came back at level 81. This time we were able to take out Wailord in 2 Earthquakes. Ludicolo went down to a couple of secret powers, whilst Tentacle went down to an Earthquake. Next was the dreaded Milotic. As we kept on attacking, Wallace kept on spamming recover, and this battle went on for a solid 5 minutes until we were able to take Milotic down, and we were lucky that Wailord didn't get poisoned during that duration. Wishcash was quite tanky due to using Amnesia and raising his special defense, but Wallace burns a lot of full restores in the process as we eventually take him out with an Earthquake. Last was Gyarados. We hit a Surf, which does a decent chunk, but Gyarados uses Dragon Dance to raise his attack and speed. Next turn he hits us with an Earthquake, but only does about 70 damage, as we connect with another Surf to bring him into red health. However, he's used up all his full restores, and barring a critical hit, we're finally going to beat this. So after I finally got over that loss, I tried again, and this time goes pretty much the same as last, as I rushed through his first 3 Pokemon. But Milotic and Wishcash were once again tricky to beat, with Milotic spamming recover, and Wallace drowning the poor Wishcash in a sea of full restores.
Oh no, the poor fish.
Anyway, we meet Gyarados once again, and things mostly repeat themselves, but this time around, Wallace has a full restore, meaning our fate is pretty much sealed once again, and means we're probably going to have to go back to the victory road.
お前はもう死んでいる。何?
Okay, now that was epic. Wailord is such a beast. I can't even begin to describe how I was feeling in the moment, but I can tell you that I was pretty ecstatic, as anyone would be. And with that, we're in the Hall of Fame. But there's still one more trainer that we need to beat. That trainer is Steven. We take down Skarmory in 2 Surfs before it could do any real damage. Aggron also goes down to a Surf. Next was Cradily, and without Ice Beam, we're in a bit of strife, as this Cradily is basically a prehistoric Ludicolo, not a sight for sore eyes, as it has moves like Ingrain and Giga Drain. We lost a lot of health before we could take it out. Then it was Claydol, who didn't go down to a single Surf, and uses Earthquake to take us down to 44 HP. We then used Secret Power and then Surf to prevent another heal. But we couldn't get past Metagross, as its Earthquake took us out, and it's clear that we probably need to gain some more levels. So I go train some more in the Victory Road, and come back at level 86, ready to take him on again. Skarmory and Aggron were easy knockouts. Then it was Cradily again. This time, we hit it with a Surf to deal big damage whilst it confuses us. And unfortunately on the next turn Wailord hits himself in confusion, as Cradily uses Giga Drain. Luckily though, we snap out of confusion early, and hit another Surf to bring Cradily into Healing Zone, But then Ingrain prevents Steven from using a full restore, and we proceed to take Cordelia out on the next turn. Despite our increased level, we still couldn't take out Claydol in a single shot, and it sets up Light Screen. Steven then uses a full restore, but 2 more surfs are able to finish the job. Then it was Metagross. Earthquake didn't even do half damage to it, as Psychic hits us for massive damage. We then use Surf on the next turn, but Psychic brings us into red health. Metagross heals with a berry, but it wasn't enough to stop Surf from KOing it. Armado is last, but we take it out with a single Surf. Anyways guys, that pretty much does it for the video. I have to say, Wallace was much harder than I expected, and probably the hardest battle I had during this run. His Ludicolo and Milotic were absolute nightmares, but the biggest highlights I think was when Wailord returned the favour to Wallace with a critical hit for the win, after he did to us in the previous battle. Anywho, that pretty much wraps it up. If you guys have any feedback for this video, or if you have any ideas for future videos, please leave it in the comments. Like and subscribe if you want to, and I hope you enjoyed this Wailord only run of Pokemon Emerald. I'm Snoggu, and have a good one.